Hey, what's up everyone, and welcome back to another Separate Ways video once again. You'll probably be seeing a lot of these kind of videos for the next week from me and other Resident Evil content creators until the release of this DLC. So in today's video, I want to talk about 5 things I want in the RE4 Remake DLC, from Separate Ways and Mercenaries. I feel like I did a video about this not too long ago, but maybe there is some new ideas and whatnot. We'll see what happens. But before we get into the video, be sure to leave a like on this as it helps it reach the YouTube algorithm, and subscribe to the channel if you want more Resident Evil content in the near future, or just want to stay up to date on the latest Resident Evil news. And with that out of the way guys, let's get right into the video. We're going to start off with the number 1 spot here, and I think this is the most requested thing that fans want in this DLC, and that is the U3 boss fight. If there was one thing that fans could point out that was cut in the RE4 Remake compared to the original game, it was this boss fight that Leon had to go through. Personally for me, it is one of the most underrated boss fights in RE4 and maybe in Resident Evil history. It is top 3 for me in the game itself. But for some reason, it was cut in the remake, and people have been wondering if it is going to appear in the Separate Ways DLC. And there definitely is a very big chance it could happen because we don't know what to expect in terms of content for Separate Ways. They'll most likely keep most of the original stuff, but there is something that I do want to talk about in the second slot that I honestly had a problem with the RE4 Remake, and that is the interactions and the cutscenes and just the acknowledgement about Krauser and Ada working together or knowing each other essentially. For some reason in the remake, this was just nowhere to be seen, and I just kind of had like this weird problem with it. I don't know why. I always liked the unique factor of Krauser being this double agent working for Sadler to get the sample or the amber and then sending it to Wesker, but ultimately wanted to kill Leon because of the stuff that went on with Operation Javier and his jealousy towards Leon. Speaking of essentially cut content, there actually is a chapter in Separate Ways that is most likely going to be completely canned and replaced with something else. You guys remember in the original where Krauser and Leon had their knife fight, I believe, and Ada was the one that ended up saving Leon from Krauser nearly killing him. But instead, it was Luis and Ada in the original had to go through a bunch of Ganados, a battleship even, and had to control crazy guns to destroy it and just to save Leon. And that was pretty much the entire focus of one of the 5 Separate Ways chapters. And knowing that it is probably not going to be in the game, which it most likely isn't because, you know, Luis saved Krauser in the remake, or saved Leon, I should say, in the remake. It's going to be very interesting to see what they replace with that, and I think I already know what it's going to be. We saw in the trailer that Ada does get infected by Las Plagas, so maybe that could be an essential part in 1 or 2 chapters of Separate Ways. I don't know when it could happen. It could probably be around the time before she meets Leon or after she meets Leon, or maybe it could be around the time where she was knocked unconscious and taken away by the village chief. She probably did end up getting rid of the Plaga a lot easier and faster than Leon and Ashley, so maybe it will be around a chapter or 2 length. At the 3rd spot, I'm going to move on to the mercenary side of things, and I actually want an extra mercenaries map. In Resident Evil 4 Original, there was a Waterworld map where it featured one of the biggest highlights in arguably the entire game, and that was Giant or Super Salvador, and where he was just a lot bigger, had a double-wielding chainsaw or 2 blades, I believe, and was just an absolute savage. I don't know if he is going to be in this game, but let's just say if they do end up adding it, and they do end up adding a Dr. Salvador or somebody, I have a very, very good idea as to who can replace Super Salvador. You guys do remember in the Resident Evil 4 Remake demo before the game released, there was a secret game mode known as Mad Chainsaw Mode, where Dr. Salvador was a lot faster, more menacing, he looked different, he had practically a chainsaw blade on fire, it was orange as hell, and he had a lot more HP and it was a lot harder to kill him. Maybe that could be the enemy to replace Super Salvador in Waterworld. If it gets added, I would really love to see that. Also, another thing about mercenaries is I want to see a difficulty setting from hardcore or maybe just standard. I personally do think, as much as I loved RE4 Remake Mercenaries, I think Mayhem mode made it so overpowering for the characters to the point where it just got way too easy. So I would love to see a difficulty setting and some sort of reward for it as well. Speaking of unlocking and rewards, let's move on to the number 4 slot, and one of the weapons that was not added in the remake from the original game was the PRL-412, which was the laser weapon that killed the Ganados in literally 1 shot, unless you wanted to just flash them temporarily. This is arguably the most overpowered weapon and probably of RE history. The main purpose of the gun was to remove the plagas or destroy them from the Ganato's bodies, which resulted in instant death. The gun itself was completely made for Resident Evil 4, and I was kind of surprised that it wasn't added in the launch game of RE4 Remake, but I personally do think, let's just say, if Separate Ways ended up getting some sort of difficulty setting as well, where you could play it on hardcore or professional, and if you end up beating Separate Ways on hardcore, you could unlock the PRO for 12 lasers for free. Since we already have the Chicago typewriter, the Matilda, and the infinite rocket launcher, that's the only bonus weapon that is practically missing from the original game, and I would love to see it added in this DLC as well, and probably just keep it a secret. On top of the U3, please keep the U3 a secret as well. I would honestly rather be surprised about the U3 showing up just out of nowhere. It's kind of like on how Capcom was keeping the regenerators a very big secret until we got to the island part, which I thought that was a perfect move from Capcom in terms of not spoiling the game too much, I should say. Keep the regenerators in the U3 under the same blanket, keep them under wraps, and reveal them when we are playing the game so we can be shocked and we can be happy that they're both in the game. The fact that there was a rumor about the regenerators being cut before the game ended up releasing was just fucking stupid. Last one is honestly kind of silly since I couldn't really come up with a fifth idea, but I guess I did with this one. I wouldn't mind seeing a little bit of co-op work with Luis and Ada somewhat. I think this would be very, very interesting. It would honestly help tease the co-op factor in the RE engine a lot more, whether if they want to remake RE5 or if Resident Evil 9 is going to include co-op. It's something that would be pretty cool. It would add a new element from the original Separate Ways. I think we need to see a little bit more Luis content. I mean, I know he ended up getting a lot more in the remake compared to the original, but I will say this. I love Luis in this game. He was an immediate upgrade compared to the original, 100%, and it got to the point where I just wanted to see more of him, and I hope with this DLC we could see more of him from cutscenes or gameplay with Ada alongside her in a co-op aspect of Separate Ways. It would be really cool to see, and it would, you know, make us be attached more to Luis in a way. And especially if he was also responsible for removing the plaga from Ada, because in the end of the reveal trailer, he ended up talking to her about the symptoms of having the plaga inside of you, so maybe he might be a key essential part for Ada removing the plaga. But anyways guys, that is the end of today's video. I really am questioning on if I want to make an Operation Javier video talking about if there could be a potential second DLC, or if Capcom should make a second DLC with this game. I don't know if this is going to be the end. Well, it most likely will be for RE4 Remake after September 21st, and then we end up waiting on the PSVR 2 version of the game in the winter, and then 2024 is basically expect the unexpected and speculate however the fuck you want. But anyways guys, again, that is the end of today's video. If you enjoyed, please leave a like to help this video reach the YouTube algorithm, and subscribe to the channel if you are new or are just a fan of Resident Evil in general and enjoyed this video. As always, I will catch you guys in my next video. Peace out and much love.